Fusion, one of the oldest and quickest ways to get power boost in the Dragon Ball universe. But how exactly does it work? How many different forms of fusion are there, and which ones would be considered the strongest? In today's video, I'm going to go over all of this and more. This is Dragon Ball Fusion Explained. And real quick guys, I just want to take this moment to please ask you guys to remember to hit that subscribe button, trying to get to like 1,200 subscribers, and if you could help me out, it would be greatly appreciated. So what exactly is fusion? Well, to put it simply, it's where two or more beings combine into one warrior, combining their strengths and giving them a significant power boost. And you might think this is sort of a broken ability, and you would be right, but usually there is a huge catch with this method of fusion, but we're going to go ahead and get there. Also, I want to explain that there is a difference between fusion and absorption, so don't expect to see the androids or Majin Buu in this video. They can get their own video. So how many different types of fusion have we seen throughout the series? And the answer to that is actually 3. Namekian fusion, Metamoran fusion, and Potara fusion. So Namekian fusion is probably the most straightforward, especially since it is the first form of fusion we see in the series. First off, it does not create a new warrior, so the Nameks will have to choose which body they are going to use. Once that is decided, the Namek, whose body they are using, will place his hand over the chest of the other, and if they are both willing, then the fusion will happen. We don't know exactly how it happens, but there will be a blinding flash and the two warriors will then be fused into one. Unlike the other fusions on this list, Namekian fusion is permanent, though it could be possible for the Dragon Balls to undo the fusion, but we never see this happen in the series. The only exception to this is if someone were to use forced spirit fusion on the warrior, it would cause them to unfuse, but we also never actually see this happen. It is also possible for multiple Namekians to fuse into the same body, like how Piccolo has fused with Nail and Kami, and the Universe 6 Namekians competing in the Tournament of Power fused with many Namekians. Though in that case, it took them a while to adjust to the fusion, so they couldn't fight at full power for half the tournament. And speaking of power, the buff from this type of fusion is definitely significant, but not all that different from all the other forms of fusion, with their power being combined together, along with their combined knowledge and magical abilities. A couple of good examples of just how powerful this fusion is Piccolo, who couldn't even stand up to Nappa, and Nail, who lost to base form Frieza. After fusing, Piccolo could take on Frieza in his second transformation, and that transformation had a power level of 1 million. And then, when he fused with Kami, he could actually keep up with the androids and Imperfect Cell. But the next fusion we have is the Metamoran fusion. More commonly known as the Fusion Dance, this is introduced in the series where Goku teaches it to Trunks and Goten, after learning it from the Metamorans in the other world. So the Fusion Dance does create a new warrior, combining traits of the two who perform the fusion, but getting rid of their clothes and giving them a black vest with accents of varying colors around the sleeves and collars, and a sash tied around their waist, white pants with varying colored cloths at the bottom holding them to their black boots. Now, in order for this fusion to work, the fusing warriors will have to be near the same height as well as have similar power levels. Their power levels don't need to be the same, but the person with the stronger level will have to lower theirs to match the weaker one. Then they will need to perform certain movements while saying fusion ha. If they do these things flawlessly, the fusion will succeed. However, if they don't perform it exactly right, they will still fuse together, but the warrior will have something wrong with him. Usually they will either be overweight or extremely skinny, and they won't be nearly as strong as a perfect fusion. Now, it is theoretically possible for multiple people to fuse, then fuse again, but we never see this happen, so we can't actually say for certain. Now, the time it takes to perform the fusion, as well as the risk of messing up the ritual, are great, which is why most of the time this is performed away from or before a fight starts. But the risk is worth it, as the successful fusion will not only combine the power of the two warriors, but will also significantly magnify them. So if the right warriors fuse, they can become nearly unstoppable, with a couple of examples of this being Gotenks holding his own against Super Buu, and Gogeta completely overwhelming Broly legendary Super Saiyan state. But there is a catch. See, this fusion has a 30-minute time limit, as well as if you perform a successful fusion, you might have to wait an entire hour before you can fuse again. You can also shorten the time for the fusion by using up too much energy with powerful attacks or transformations, and if you take up too much damage, the fusion will also fail. But then the final fusion we see in the series is actually the Potara fusion. We first learn about this fusion when Elder Kai tells Goku about it after Goku mentions that there is no time for Gohan to learn the fusion dance. So like the Metamoran fusion, the Potara fusion does create a new warrior, combining attributes of both the fusion participants, though one will come out slightly more dominant and their outfits will be a combination of the clothes the participants were wearing. They will also be wearing the Potara earrings, which are what's necessary for the fusion to take place. So this fusion is a lot less complicated than the Metamorph fusion. In order to fuse, all you have to do is have one of the participants put the Potara earrings on one ear while the other one puts it on the other. As soon as this is done, the two will be pulled together, there will be a bright light, and they will be fused. Also, like all other fusions, it could be possible to fuse multiple people together, but we just don't see this in the series. So it's kind of implied that maybe you can't do it, but there really isn't anything saying you could. So it's hard to say whether or not this fusion is more or less powerful than the Metamorph fusion, since we haven't really had any feats to separate them, and we've also only seen Shin and Kibito, Goku and Vegeta, and Kale and Kefla use it, all of them being significantly strong warriors, but it is definitely easier to perform, and depending on which canon you're watching at the time limits can actually be lower or greater. But that actually leads us perfectly into the drawbacks of this fusion, and like I said, it is sort of canon dependent. See, we were told in the original Dragon Ball Z that the fusion was permanent, but then we saw what we thought was Boo's magic canceling it out. Then this is confirmed in Dragon Ball Daima, with Shin and Kibito asking Boo to swallow them, then spit them out to cancel out their fusion. So in Dragon Ball Z, we all thought the fusion was permanent, and then in Dragon Ball Daima, they canonized that fusion as being permanent. But then in Dragon Ball Super, we actually find out that it's only permanent if you're a god. So for mortals, if they use the Potara fusion, you would only have a 30-minute time limit, just like the Metamorph fusion. So really, it just kind of depends on like where you're at, but presently Super is the definitive canon, with GT and Daima being their own separate canons, branching off from the current main timeline. And just like the Metamorph fusion, you can actually shorten that 30-minute time limit by extending too much energy. So that happened when Goku and Vegeta turned into Vegito, went Super Saiyan Blue, and started fighting fused Zamasu. They used so much energy just per their transformations and attacks that they actually just shortened the fusion down to just maybe 5 minutes. Also, unlike the Namekian fusion, the consciousnesses of the two warriors is not separate within the warrior. They will just combine and continue from that time forward. But in the Super, we find out that Shin Kibito asked the Namekians to use the Dragon Balls to unfuse them, so that is actually a possible way to defuse as well. But realistically, guys, that's kind of it. That's all you need to know about fusion and Dragon Ball, because realistically, that's kind of all there is to know. As far as which one is stronger, I would actually argue that kind of all of them can be equally as strong, though I would say the Namekian fusion, by having no time limit at all, is probably one that would be slightly more beneficial. But it just, like I said, it kind of depends on which canon you guys are watching. But hey, let me know down in the comments, what do you guys think is the strongest fusion? Which ones of the fusions are your favorites? And who is your favorite fused character? And while you guys are down there, please remember to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so you never miss another video from me, and I will see you in the next video.